Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free. You're listening to Jimmy Church Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
We're turning all of our antennas towards Jimmy Church on Dark Matter Radio.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church Fade to Black.
Man, I could listen to Space Boy all day. Really good. That's what I'm talking about. Welcome. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Today's Thursday, June 12th. 154 days into the new year. We are live from the JP Motorsports Studios right here in Burbank, California for KJCR and the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Welcome to everybody listening around the world for the latest edition of Fade to Black, the Thursday edition. It was a good show last night, wasn't it? Dale and Jason Romero, Alex Mastreda, live in the studio here. We had a great time. Thank you, guys. That was a unique evening last night. Had a good time. I think we saw the birth of a radio star in Jason Romero. Tried to take over. Had to slap him around a little bit. Kid was good. He was real good. Big salute to the proud men and women in uniform all around the world, fighting the good fight. Without them, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us, and you couldn't hear me right now. And I need you to think about that for a second. Freedom of speech is very important. Before you start saying, hey, man, the imperialists taking over, invasions. Hey, you know what? That's not what it's about. You couldn't say that if it wasn't for them, those heroes putting their stuff on the line every single day. Think about it. All right, let's get this one cracking. It's going to be good. Can't wait. John Titor update. Larry Haber in the house. And then a full evening of Freeman. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. Freeman will be with us at the top of the hour, 8 o'clock Pacific time. Larry Haber will be joining us from Florida at the bottom of the hour. And with that, let's go. Today, actor Jason Mewes, 40 years old. He ain't 40. It's a typo. Jason Mewes, 40 years old. Jason Mewes is about 56. You know, he was the guy that starred in Clerks, Jay and Silent Bob. He's Jay. My favorite, Dogma. He absolutely slayed in Dogma. Jason Mewes, 40 years old. And if that is 40, I'm about 26. Also, today, and check this out. There's a little story behind this. Keyboardist Chick Corea is 73 years old. And Chick Corea almost single-handedly transformed jazz in the 70s. He did. With his band Return to Forever. He changed things. Changed my life. Al Di Meola. Stanley Clarke. And then he turned around, him and Stanley, totally freaked out the music community when he and Tom Cruise became the two of the most famous Scientologists. And Chick announced to everybody that he credited the religion's founder, L. Ron Hubbard, with being the main source of his creative inspiration. And then every needle on every record player went, can't stop listening to Chick Corea. It was the biggest crash of a career anybody ever had. And but the old stuff was pretty good. And anyway, God, I just said Scientology on the air. Oh no. Oh, there goes the JP Motorsports Studios. Going to go up in flames here in a few minutes. Going to get that strange knock at the door. Shouldn't have done it, but I did. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, at JChurchRadio. Don't forget to hashtag DMRadioNet. Hashtag DMRadioNet. Go jump in. Go hang out with everybody. All the familiar faces are there. I'm looking at it right now. Let's hang out. Shoot me some stuff tonight. All right. Follow, like, and subscribe. Facebook, YouTube. YouTube is blowing up. Man, I love what I see on YouTube. YouTube is crazy. I don't know why that is doing what it's doing, but we've added, and this is no joke, without telling anybody about this channel or advertising or pimping it in any way, we've added like 1,500 subscribers in 7 days. It's like 20 subscribers an hour. Blink, 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 blink. Up, 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 up. I love it. It's amazing what is going on there. And with that, everybody shares the videos and it heads out, and it's publicizing for us dark matter, this network and this show. And it's YouTube is a great thing. Love it. Love it. So go subscribe, go hang out, go do it. Tonight, Larry Haber. I don't know if, you know what, I might, if Larry wants, we might open up the lines and see if we can get a Titor call in. And John, if you're listening right now, call in tonight. Would love to hear from John Titor. Call in. We'll find out if it's the real John Titor. That's easy enough to do. And so anyway, 323-825-5045, that is the call-in number. Email throughout the show. Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. You know what to do there. Pierce the veil of the producers here and get through to me. And that's that. All right. It's easy enough to do. All right. Contact in the Desert. We announced the first 5 winners, which were Rick Sinnott, Brad Beining, Arturo Portillo, Shakira Bluesun, and Walter Lewis. And I think Contact in the Desert reached out to everybody today and let them know what to do. Congratulations. We will announce a new set of winners next Friday. But head over to jimmychurchradio.com right now. Contact in the Desert is right there. Just scroll down. It's right there. It's right there. Right below the contact numbers at the top of the page. You can see it. It says win a pass to Contact in the Desert from Fade to Black. And click on the banner right there or the poster and head over to the Fade to Black page and enter the contest. It's going to be great. It's August 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. Eric Von Daniken, Stephen Greer, David Wilcox, Tsoukalos, David Jacobs, Nick Pope, Jim Mars, Jason Martell, Linda Moulton Howe, Richard Dolan, Michael Tellinger, John Anthony West, and us. And we will be broadcasting Friday night, August 8th, from Contact in the Desert. So all of the winners, you're going to come hang out with us, jump on the air, jump on the show, hang out, meet some people. It's going to be a great time. And I've heard from everybody that has won. Everybody's in shock. And it's cool, and I'm glad. And I just want everybody to go out there and hang out with us and have a great time. It's like the Woodstock of ufology. Everybody is going to be there. And you know what? You can probably hang out and watch Nori pull up in a limousine. He'll be the only guy. Oh, man. I wonder, wouldn't that be funny? Nori walk by, see us broadcasting, shoot us that look. I'm sure he'll be friendly. But everybody's going to be there. So go right now, jimmychurchradio.com, enter the contest. It's going to be amazing. And I want everybody to have a chance to win and come hang out with us. All right? Let's see here. Last night, get home after the show last night, and in Casa de Church we have your typical kitchen, and I have three dogs, three small dogs, and this is an amazing story. I still haven't I've tripped on it all day. I have two miniature schnauzers, two tiny little miniature schnauzers, Malcolm and Portia. And I also have another rescue dog, little teeny tiny white dog. I don't know what she is, but she's beautiful. She's wonderful. Her name is Luna. And she's all of about 5 pounds, a little tiny thing. I have no idea what she is, but she's cute. Anyway, in the center of our kitchen, we have your typical island, right? Island, granite-topped island. Sits by itself in the middle of the kitchen. And last night, before I went to bed, I had a blueberry muffin. And so sitting in the center of the island is a box of croissants. And on top of that, sitting right dead center of the island's not small. It's like 4 feet by 6 feet. And so sitting in the middle of the island on top of the box is the box of blueberry muffins. And there was 4 blueberry muffins in this box. And I wake up this morning and I head over to the coffee machine. I go downstairs and I grind my Starbucks beans, as I do every morning. And as I'm walking over to the coffee maker, I step on some paper on the floor. And I look down, and there are 3, count them, 3 blueberry muffin wrappers in the middle of the kitchen floor. And I look up on the island, and the blueberry muffin box went from 4 to 1. Now, I ask you, how does a miniature schnauzer jump 4 feet into the air onto an island in the middle of a kitchen? It's impossible. And I look over at the dining room table, which is 10 feet away. I'm thinking, did they jump up on the dining room table and then leap 10 feet over onto the what was going on? Like, what kind of party was going on in my kitchen last night? I couldn't believe. I still haven't figured it out. I don't know if my schnauzers were sitting on the floor and willing a little ESP, little poltergeist action going on in my kitchen. I have no idea how this happened. I don't know if one dog got on the back of another one. So I have no idea. Levitation, they got those things off of the counter somehow. Absolutely amazing. Okay, let's get to some quick emails. If you guys have a schnauzer that knows how to levitate blueberry muffins, let me know how to cure this problem. Thinking about doing a night vision video session all night. I got to see how this is going down. Pretty hilarious. Quick email. This came in from Roger, and he says, hi. In the underwater structure, is it just me, or do you see a couple of faces of other beings there on the pillars that are to the right of the structure that has the round top with the pillars underneath it? I didn't go after I got the email today. It was kind of busy day here, and I didn't get a chance to go and check it out. But so I'm leaving it up to you, and tell me do you see what Roger is seeing in these pillars? I have no idea what he says. Faces, a couple of faces on the pillars that are to the right. So check that out. I'm gonna watch Twitter tonight, and I'll see if anybody is seeing anything. I found that pretty interesting. I've gotten probably 20 guest requests over the last couple of days. Keep them coming. Keep the guest request coming. Very important. I dig all of them. So please keep the guest request coming. All right. With that, I'm going to take a quick break. Come back. We'll deal with the news. And in about 10 minutes, bottom of the hour, Larry Haber will be in the studio. John Titor update. Tomorrow night, Larry Warren live from the UK. I think we're going to have Peter Robbins check in with Larry Warren as well. Later on tonight, about a half hour, 40 minutes, Freeman. This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Bespoke Radio for the masses. Stay with us, everybody.
You're listening to Jimmy Church Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444, or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com
on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Oh, yeah. Fade to Black. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, everybody listening around the world. Hither, tither, to and fro, back and forth, far and near, north and south, east and west, across the pond, both directions. This is Fade to Black, Bespoke Radio for the masses on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Today is Thursday. A few minutes, we're going to have Larry Haber, attorney for the John Titor family. And then it's Freeman. Tonight, no stone will be left unturned. I can promise you that. Looking forward to it. Tomorrow night, Larry Warren live from the UK. And Peter Robbins as well. They both wrote a book called Left at Eastgate. And this will be one of the last editions of the Rendlesham story that we have done here. We've had everybody on the show. There's only one guy left, and that's Colonel Halt. And we'll get him on, too. Don't you worry. Right now, trending on CNN before the show, Iraq, Bush 41, nuclear bombs, Kim Jong-un, Tracy Morgan, Dave Chappelle, don't know why he's trending, Mila Kunis, don't know why she's trending, and the World Cup. No mention of MH370, absolutely mind-blowing. And you know, I think Slender Man is a bigger story right now than MH370, and I will say it. I will say it right now. It appears that they have won. I have nothing to report on MH370. I don't know what's going on. Neither do you. So that just we can just go back to all those conspiracy theories that I listed last week. That's where we are at. I don't know. And I want to follow that up with this. On one of the big news outlets right now on the internet, I was goofing around before the show. And these are right now, these are the headlines that the masses or that mainstream media thinks that the masses will find interesting. This is where America is headed. And when I say this is one of the top 3 websites, okay? I'm not going to say who it is, but it doesn't matter. They're all the same. Check this out. These are the headlines. Fox yanks 2 TV series. Clinton irked by question. Ford faces scrutiny over miles per gallon. A mayor says that Trump's sign is tasteless. How to avoid buying a lemon. Prince George is walking. World Cup miracle. Soccer in space. I'm not making this stuff up. It goes on and on. Eight gross facts about shrimp. Celebrities who adore their dads. How much is your dad worth? The 5 most outrageous airline fees. These are headlines. The meaning of the middle class. Starbucks goes fast casual. It's insane to me. The one most important story on this planet right now is that missing airliner. And this is what we have 20 years later, the manhunt for O.J. Simpson. The 20 of the most prettiest dresses for warmer weather. This is more important. Philadelphia police arrest a couple over sex in the surf. R. Kelly's transgender son. Jawless ancient fish found. These are the headlines all over this homepage. And that's it. That's where I'm at. I am so bothered by this. I'm so bothered by it that I'm talking about it now. When, I hate to say it, but when will media wake up and cover? They should have guys out there right now on boats at the airports telling us what's going on, uncovering things. I haven't heard one report from Rolls-Royce. Not one. And if I ran a network, I would have somebody at Rolls-Royce every single day. I'd have somebody at Boeing every single day. I'd have somebody at the FAA every single day asking questions. And we get Kunis is who cares? I just don't get it. It's unbelievable to me. Okay, let's before I take this break and get Larry Haber on. There was a tweet. You know what? I'm going to get to this after the break. I'm going to pull this up. There was a couple of tweets that I wanted to get in, but again, I want to thank Dale, Jason, Alex Mistreta last night. That was a lot of fun, and I hope that everybody, the mystery behind who Dale Romero is, was cracked last night. And again, Alex Mistreta, that was a lot of fun, and I do think we have seen the birth of a new radio legend in Jason Romero. Absolutely cool. So with that, let me take a break. When I come back, Larry Haber. This is Bespoke Radio for the Masses. Larry Haber, attorney for the John Titor family. After that, we got Freeman. Tomorrow night, it's Larry Warren and Peter Robbins. Larry, live from the UK. Peter, live from New York. I'll be back right after this. This is Bespoke Radio for the Masses. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Stay with us, everybody. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to Jimmy Church Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I got to tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444, or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
All right. Bring it down. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, Larry Warren, Peter Robbins. Later on tonight, Freeman. Freeman, live also from the East Coast. It's the East Coast night tonight. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio, hashtag DMRadioNet. Go hang out. Shoot me an email to Jimmy at JimmyChurchRadio.com. All right, we're ready. Larry Haber is the CEO of the John Titor Foundation and is an entertainment attorney in Orlando, Florida. Mr. Haber also represents Kay, the mother of John Titor. He was the director of business affairs for Walt Disney World from 1992 to 1999 and was director of legal administration for Universal Studios in Florida from 1988 to 1990. I would like to welcome to the program right now attorney Larry Haber. Larry, are you with us, sir?
I am, sir. Thank you.
No, thank you, Larry, and thanks for coming back on the show. And you're a friend of the show. You're a friend of us, and welcome. And how you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. Personally, just got back from a trip to South Africa, as a matter of fact. So, rested and ready, and back working again.
Were you chasing down Titor? Was he down in? Was he in South Africa?
No, just taking my daughter as a graduation present.
Oh, so, that's cool. What'd you guys see when you were down there? What'd you do? Anything cool?
We were down in South Africa, the country, in Johannesburg and Cape Town, and did a safari, of course, and got to go through the wild game parks and just had a great time. Just had a really nice time.
I had on, it's funny that you were just there. Last week, I had on Michael Tellinger, and he's a researcher. He lives in Johannesburg down in South Africa. And we were talking, and you kind of blindsided me with this right now, but I have to ask you because he was saying that, it's gotten a little bit crazy down in South Africa the last couple of years, and it's not what, the government is going to tell you, that it's a little nutty down there. How were you? Were you guys safe? And did you see anything crazy?
Not only were we safe, I was very impressed with how well everything ran and how well everything is doing down there. I'm really a big, as we've talked before in your program, I love history, politics, economics, and so on.
Right.
And the country is very, very stable. We had a great time in both cities. We spent a lot of time in the cities. Economy-wise, it's doing pretty well, although the rand there is not very strong against the dollar. So if you're visiting there, unlike Europe, it's very cheap to eat meals and stay there now. But no, we're doing very well. It's north of them in Zimbabwe that's having a lot of trouble, and they're worried about that as a spillover because that country is still falling apart.
Right. Does it feel like Africa? Obviously, it feels like another country, but is it what you see when you go out? Is it just like what you think? Is it what you expect?
First, South Africa, first off, is basically first world all the way in terms of its economy. It's much like Europe and the rest of Europe. If you're in a big city, you're in malls, you're in traffic. The big difference, of course, is since it was British, they drive on what we call the wrong side of the road.
Right.
So I was constantly looking out for a car coming at me and realizing, of course, it wasn't coming at me. But that's, very, very good. And when you get into a game park, you're basically in hundreds of square miles of open land where, of course, you're looking for giraffes, lions, everything else. And we got to see everything like that on one of the safaris we took. So outside of actually driving to a game park, you might as well be in any place in the United States or in Europe.
Wow. That's one of the places that I think all of us, and certainly with us here, that's a bucket list place. That's
why we went. That's exactly right. It's not an easy flight from, we left out of New York, but it was 7 hours to London and then 12 hours from London to Johannesburg. So it's a lot of flying.
Wow. I'm totally jealous, and I'm just glad you're back safe and, you didn't get attacked. So now let's talk a little Titor. And
okay.
There are quite a few people right now that are here listening, chomping at the bit, and wondering, what Larry's going to have to say. But before we get to that, I have to ask one of the generic questions. But you say it really, really well. What is this fascination with Titor? And I will say this, Larry, when you were on last time, and of course Oliver Williams called in right after you, and that was a great show for everybody. And to this day, that video, that show gets listened to all the time. It's constant email, and it's put this show and myself at the center of the world of John Titor. I've had 4 or 5 John Titors contact me, and it's.
No, I want to talk about another one when we get to it on the show. So
okay,
we'll get to that after your question, I'm sure.
Okay, let's do that, and I'm just excited to get you on. So, but what is it? What is it about John Titor that has kept millions and millions of people around the world updating and sites and forums and what you say? What do you got to say about that?
Well, I think some of it has to do with the uncertainty in the world, as I said before. You just go to the news today about what's happening in Iraq, and the last headline I saw tonight, at least on the East Coast, was Iran was marshaling its Revolutionary Guards to start going in or at least protecting their borders. So everybody takes a look around and says, is this the end of, times? Is this Bible prophecy? Is this really going to be a huge war coming up now, and so on? And when you have somebody like John Titor that has seen what has happened and knows where things can go, at least in a current timeline, people want to latch onto it. I think that's what's happening even more now.
I've gotten a bunch of emails over the past week, not only because you're coming on the show, but I think there's some chatter going around the web now about just what you just brought up, some of the action that is going on, with Russia and China, and of course North Korea is always involved, and we've got Syria and Iraq. That this is all of those predictions of John are about to bust loose. They've even thrown in MH370, the Malaysian airliner, into the mix.
Right.
And with what is any of this lining up with what John was saying back in 2000?
It is, unfortunately. But again, part of what John went through was not necessarily the same timeline that we're going through now because of things that change as timelines progress. So I am very optimistic that this kind of stuff is not what's going to happen, but I can certainly understand why people feel the way they do and why people, quite frankly, are getting scared. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff out there right now that's big unknowns.
Well, and you don't want to say, coincidence in a situation like this because it is potentially world-changing stuff, and it's something that you don't make light of.
Correct.
And with John, It's a fantastic story. I've always, been on the side of the fence that I believe that, everything is true. But until something says that it's not, I'm on the other side of the fence with this, and you know that. But it's not these types of coincidences. You don't just make light of this and just say, you don't, because it is too close to the mark. These types of predictions that were made. And they weren't predictions. He was just telling us what was going to go down.
No, I understand. And as I've said before in your program and other interviews I've had, I still to this day don't know whether what I have and my client stories are real or not. I have very limited contact, and it just happens to be at different periods of time for different reasons. And so I'm as skeptical as everybody else is. But as time progresses and people progress with this, I keep looking at everything and going, wow, I'm in that same camp. Wow.
Yeah. And this is what's funny. This is what's funny about the entire story is back in 2000, when John started posting some of this stuff, the Cold War was over. The Berlin Wall had come down. Russia was in turmoil. Their economy was shot. Their military was in shambles. And China wasn't a threat, and all of these predictions about China, Russia, and the United States, it was something that you could just laugh about because there was no way that anything could possibly happen. Who would, they didn't have the capacity or anything else to threaten the United States. And here we are in 2015, Russia's back, China's on a roll. We've got this situation going down in the Ukraine, and Putin is out of his mind. You know what I mean? It's just like, wow,
yep.
Wow, this is looking kind of kind of real. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, scary too. I understand.
And
I understand. And part of the reason when you asked, to have me on the show and stuff, I'm happy to be on first off, and always am. But it's also to give you whatever information I can. Again, I don't have a lot of contact, but to, in many cases, dispel some of the things that are out there that I know aren't true directly, just so that at least I'm helping out in some way.
When I don't want to rub this in the ground, but when we were talking about coincidences or the original post from John about the situation that we find ourselves in today in 2014, it was something that we could joke about. And it was just like, and it was so easy to dismiss. And if you were going to be a skeptic, those were bullets in your skeptic gun, because there was no way that any of this could come to pass. But
that's absolutely correct. And I was just as skeptical as everybody else.
And here we are in 2014, rolling into 2015, and it's just like, wow. Now the thought of John coming back in 2014 and coming on this show sounds about as possible as anything. Because
I can give you a couple of pieces of information. I did speak with Kay, and I was told that, not a whole lot, but I was told that sometime in July or November, she wouldn't give me anything more specific than that there'll be some more information and postings and or an interview. So I don't know exactly what she's up to or what John's up to at that point in time, but something will take place this year. That's as best I know so far.
And it will happen on this program, correct?
I will be happy to do so, Jimmy. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I've had so many emails. Check this out. I would love your comment on this. I've had people accuse me of being John Titor. And and of course, that my brothers have been, my son has been John Titor. It's been proven how many different family members of mine, my youngest brother, who's in the digital security business, does security work for Beyond Trust, one of the big security houses. When he gets questioned about this stuff, it sometimes causes a little bit of problem for him because they think there's something else going on, particularly when he's, in the job that he has. So I've been impacted personally by it, and we just make sure that we tell people that's not the case. Does it ever slow down? Is there like an ebb and tide with it, or is it just a constant barrage?
It's a constant barrage. I get emails still, I get phone calls, and one of the things I wanted to bring up on the show was to ask you the question, or even some of your listeners, if they can help. There's a John Titor on Facebook that friended me, and I know it's not the real person, but boy, there are a ton of posts about formulas and timelines and this, that, and the other. And I don't know if you know anything about the John Titor on Facebook right now, but it's not real, and I know it's not real at this point.
It's funny that you bring that up. If you just indulge me for a second, I'm flipping over to Facebook now. I got a message from John Titor either yesterday or today. Let me see if I can find it. If I can't find it really fast, then I'm going to move on. Facebook is always out of control for me. Okay, I can't find it right now, but what he did list was time and dates for 2015 and going into 2016 with, this nuclear exchange, and he had a couple of other really strange comments. And I thought,
are you there?
Yes, I am here. I'm here. Well, I'm going to keep talking, but anyway. With these very direct and dark predictions about what was going to happen in 2015 and 2016, and to have this kind of stuff spreading on the internet, and you're saying now, that this isn't John Titor, and do you know who this culprit is? If it's not John Titor, is it somebody else that you can tell to stop?
Well, I haven't done anything directly. I just know that it's out there. That's why I thought when I got on your show this time around, if you knew anything more, or if any of your listeners would, know anything more about it, or in particular, just put a stop to it. I think, I don't know what people gain out of doing this, but obviously there are plenty of people that do it all the time.
I'm looking. I don't see... I've just switched screens. I'm heading over to the fan page. Maybe it was posted there. But I know I got one in a private message. I don't know. Maybe they were removed. But I did get it yesterday morning, and I was reading. I was just like, why do you need to go there?
Yep.
Is it just you are, I don't know. Hey, there's a call coming in. You want to take it up? It just went away. I was wondering, maybe it's Oliver Williams.
No, I would say, it could be Oliver. Who knows?
I missed it. It came in. But, Ed, I don't understand that either. I've been contacted by probably about a half a dozen of guys saying that they were John Titor. A couple of guys that said that they were John Titor 2. The number 2, like the second,
right?
And I just don't get it. I would assume that if somebody was going to reach out in a real capacity, and I would encourage if John is listening, or if there is somebody out there that knows John Titor from the future, whatever, you know how to contact this show, and you know what this show has done for Titor. So there's back channels and there's ways, to get to me and to get to you. You wouldn't do it in a public forum. And that's how I feel when I read that. I just dismiss it right away. There's other ways to contact me or to contact you, and they would do that. Or certainly John would go through Kay. And that's how I look at it. Did I lose you? I think Larry is lost. So anyway, Larry, I want to thank you for coming on the show. And
thank you.
And are you back?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. The call was still in progress, but I couldn't hear you.
Oh well, it's what? It's somebody messing with us, John, or it's somebody messing with us, Larry. Well be. But have you been in contact with Oliver at all? Does he have any news to report? Has he got anything on the front lines?
No, my only contact with Oliver was a few years ago. I've had no direct contact. I know he's still actively involved, but we don't seem to cross paths at all.
Well, again, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I know that you know how to get a hold of me directly, and if you've got anything to report, anything at all, I'm going to look over on Twitter really quick to see if anybody's got any questions for you. And I don't see anything there. Everybody's talking about you, but we don't have any questions. And I'm going to check email really quick. Okay, nothing's coming. All right. Well, Larry, again, fantastic. I'm glad you're back safe from South Africa. And please give my best to Kay. And
I will.
And
I will. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Jimmy. And if anything pops up, I certainly will give you a call. I've got your number. And again, once I start getting some info, I'll let you know. Be happy to report it back on your show.
Yeah, this is the Dark Matter / John Titor Radio Network. And
thank you.
Well, it's just funny how, and I know how you feel, but we were thrust into being at the center of all of this, which is fine and it's exciting and it's cool. But everybody, I'm not John Titor. And
no, my son is not. My brothers are not. I'm sure somebody will come up with some other family member somewhere in the future.
No. Hey, before I let you go, there's one question I do want to throw out there. Any word on the John Titor movie? Is there any action going on that side?
No, nothing else. The only thing that popped up when I was doing some work on it a couple of years ago was that computer chip that came out of that IBM. That's going to pop up again somewhere, somehow. And I don't even know where. It was just actually a text at one point that said that that's going to be part of the information that I'm going to get. So I'm looking forward to figuring out what that is. Again, I get pieces of information. I know it's being fed to me on a very slow basis, and I don't really do much with it unless you call or somebody else asks for an interview and stuff. But there will be something that has to do with that computer chip from that 5100 computer. I don't know what exactly.
Well, when you find out, just give us a call
that
here.
That came up in the movie, one of the movie interviews I did earlier.
When it happens, you let me know. Thank you, Larry. All the best, and give my best to your family. And like I said, say hi to Kay for us. And I think we lost Larry, but that's it. Thank you, Larry. Larry Haber. So there you have it. July next month or November. July or November. And looks like we're going to do it right here on this show. And like I said, I don't know how it's happened, but this show has turned out to be the center of the John Titor universe, and it's cool. Everybody contacts me all day. I get Titor mail every single day, and I expect something to happen soon. When I was talking to Larry earlier, there's just some weird things that are going on. You have to remember, 15 years ago in 2000, Russia was in a shambles. China wasn't a threat. The United States was cruising. We were on cruise control. And things just seemed okay. And the thought of any battles or nuclear change or World War III or anything like that was just a laughable subject. And here we are in 2014, and we're all nervous because we're watching what's going on right now. And it's kind of trippy. And it's now, the coincidences just seem funky. And we just look at it, and what John wrote then isn't so funny now. It wasn't funny then, but it was easy to make light of. And right now, it's a different world. It's a whole different party. So with that, let's take a quick break. When I come back, we will have Freeman live in the studio. Tomorrow night, Larry Warren, live from the UK. Little Peter Robbins thrown in. We got a great week lined up next week, too, as well. Follow us on Twitter, @JChurchRadio. This is Bespoke Radio for the masses. Fade to black on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Don't touch that mouse. Be back in a second.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Dark Matter.
Dark Matter. Dark Matter. Dark Matter. Dark Matter.
You're listening to Fade to Black
on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carzan, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Oh, yeah. I remember when Doug was recording this, we were in the studio, and I'm watching him play this stuff live. And I just realized how terrible, how awful of a guitar player I was. Just found out I just needed to give it up and never, ever, 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 ever take out a guitar again and tell somebody I can play. That's exactly what happens when you sit with somebody like that is that gifted. That was Doug Aldrich. All right. This is Fade to Black, Thursday edition. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Follow us on Twitter. Hashtag DMRadioNet. Go and jump in and hang out with everybody else. Shoot me an email to jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. And I was watching the calls come in during the break, but I can't take a call. I got to get Freeman in here. And I was just thinking maybe that was, John Titor calling in on different phone numbers. But, yeah, I got to do Freeman. And so with that, Freeman is an internationally known, award-winning TV producer, filmmaker, radio talk show host, lecturer. Freeman is considered an expert in the fields of the occult, trauma-based mind control, Illuminati symbolism, and ancient civilizations. Freeman has been on the forefront of conspiracy theory for nearly 2 decades. He has created the first documentary on HAARP and televised the first documentary on chemtrails. He has been honored by the Mayan shamans and blessed by the king of Bungalung, while enlightening the world on the occult aspects of Hollywood, technology, politics, with his TV show, The Freeman Perspective. Freeman has lectured around the world, and he unveils the inner workings of secret societies such as the Freemasons and shows you the direction the world is going. Freeman starts where Alex Jones leaves off, and that's an understatement. In the spirit of David Icke and James Redfield, Freeman illustrates a world that is both cosmic and miraculous. He presents hope displayed in a creative spirit of humanity. And don't forget, he co-stars with Dan Fogler in the new film Don Peyote. I would like to welcome, big warm welcome to the program, Freeman. Freeman, are you with us, sir?
Hey, it's fantastic to be here, Jimmy.
It's fantastic to have you here, Freeman. And
now let me know if I'm too loud.
No, man. I've got faders.
All right.
No, you sound great. You sound great. Did you get a chance to listen to Larry before he came on the show? Larry Haber?
Before he came on the show?
No, before you came on the show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was listening, definitely.
Pretty fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a new paradigm, People need to flip their perspective a bit because what we're looking at on our planet is not the straightforward story that people think it is.
And what do you mean by that? Because that was pretty deep. What do you mean?
Well, my whole perspective is very similar to most truther people that are coming awake now, although I've been at it a long time, a long time before 9/11, which is usually a wake-up call for most people. when you start to look at the world from a perspective, as I began through ancient architecture, through the ideas that there are structures on this planet that cannot be crafted in the 21st century. I've gone to university studying ancient architecture. I know that we cannot build the pyramids. We cannot build Baalbek, Lebanon, and many other structures around the world in South America and Central America. We don't have the technology. So when we start to take a view of the world, when there is an ancient high civilization in our ancient past, and start to apply it to the structure of our system today, you start to come up with some pretty freaky theories, and they just keep panning out. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Wow. Well, this is the thing about you, and I'm just going to let everybody know, if you've never been to one of the coolest websites out there, it's freemantv.com. And I've said this many times to Freeman. He has got the website that I want to have. He is presenting the way that I would like to present. And one of the things about your videos and the way that you discuss all of these subjects, whether it's symbolism or the Freemasons or architecture or lost civilization, whatever you cover, you present it in a way that, and I find myself saying to myself, I need to go and research, because you are researching like in real time for everybody. If you know what and that's the way that your videos are put together, and I find it fascinating. And for you, and this is the question: are you in this mode of self-discovery all the time? I mean, when you uncover something, do you just go at it and don't stop until you're at the end of the road?
I do. I'm voracious. You should see our library. It's ridiculous. But we dig deep, and I say we because my wife has joined me in this expose of the world, and now producing Weird Stuff, our new book. So we have Weird Stuff Part 1 and Part 2 out there, showing all of the culture creation, the social engineering. But to get really into this, we wanted to step outside of the internet. I'll tell you what, like you were saying, YouTube is an amazing mystery school. I mean, it blows me away, and it's so fantastic that we're able to come out here and present a voice. I mean, it changed the world, and no one has even realized the effects of YouTube at this point. I gave a lecture to an 11th grade class this morning on MK Ultra.
No,
via Skype in Toronto.
Wow.
And this is our new world. Can you imagine learning about MK Ultra in 11th grade and how far ahead we would be as we start to develop this knowledge? And this is what happened to me. I was in university. I got dropped the idea of Freemasonry. I found out my father was involved. I learned that my dad was chasing flying saucers back in the 40s. I learned that, Blue Book, I guess maybe not the 40s, later. Sorry, it wasn't a lie. And I found out that my family's involved in this, and it just really struck home and made me want to know more and more and more. I went to the Temple of the 33rd, the Supreme Council of Freemasons in Washington, D.C. I got to be friends with the lead librarian there. She gave me copies of their inner working books like Morals and Dogma and the Glossary of Morals and Dogma. Told me just take these and don't tell anyone. Well, I guess I just told everyone. Sorry. But, this has been my life. It's been this absolute adventure that just unfolded. I had a magician friend who started to tell me about the occult. I didn't even know what the word esoteric meant. And here we were in college, and everyone around me didn't know what that word meant either. And I ended up with an entire magician's library, and I just began digging, and I began looking, and I saw signs and symbols all around me that I could represent through the Freemasonic rituals. And it started to freak me out a bit,
Now, with I want to talk about Freemasons. We, on this show, I've kind of left that subject alone. It's a little taboo-ish for me. Now, I've done a lot of listening and I've done a lot of research on it, but I've kind of left it alone because it's a little bit mysterious too. I don't quite understand, because there's the public view of Freemasons, and then there's that Alex Jones' view of Freemasons, and I just is it okay? These are the direct questions. Is it really? Are the Freemasons evil? I mean, is there bad intent? Let's just start right there. What is the deal with the Freemasons?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. There is not a negative intent in the organization of Freemasonry. Different factions, different subgroups, perhaps, but what they are is a front door to the occult world, and from there, then it branches out. You know, how many Freemasons are members of the Ordo Templi Orientis, which is mostly known for Aleister Crowley's work within it as a sex cult ritual magic order. There are more Master Masons in the OTO than there are Master Masons showing up for their lodge meetings. So it is a door to these other occult realms that you would never know existed. I have friends deep inside of Freemasonry. I'm friends with two secretaries of the Rosicrucian Order, with the commander of the Knights Templar, he was a good friend of mine before he joined. Now he's the guy who goes around and ensures that the rituals are being performed correctly. So my goal has always been to get deep into this knowledge, to really get the truth out, because there was a witch hunt going on. Now, when I began, I made my first film, Corporate Logos and Their Occult Meanings, and in this, I highlighted the Freemasons because they were the most obvious occult force within the government. They were the one that you could see plainly, clear as day. And you had to question why they would spend the effort to put pentagrams, owls, pyramids, all in the street plans of a city like Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. Why this much effort? And I began to dig into magic. I started digging deeper into what they were practicing. Now, most Masons don't know that they are practicing a form of Kabbalism, which is an ancient Hebrew mysticism, and mostly famous by Madonna or Britney, you know. But right. Freemasonry, according to 33rd Degree, Grand Sovereign Commander who wrote Morals and Dogma, Freemasonry is Kabbalism. There is no separation. And when you walk, and I've been to every Grand Lodge around the world. I mean, in Australia, London, all over England, all over America. I took Dan Fogler to the New York Grand Lodge. And, I can't wait for that footage to come out. That's not in the movie. It'll come out later.
Yeah, he told us about that. And one of the things he said, you know, Freeman took us to the Freemason Lodge in Manhattan, man, and pointed out things, man, that really freaked me out. And to listen to Dan, you really messed with Dan's head by taking him over there. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's a grand time. You know, that's the thing about our world, is that there is this no longer a celebration of play. And honestly, I'm playing. I'm going to these grand lodges. I'm laughing. I'm checking this weird stuff out. You know, as you walk into the Benjamin Franklin Lodge in Philadelphia, and you walk under a giant gold sun made of gold sperm into the Benjamin Franklin Hall, which has a 9-ton door that just pushes with a breath of air. And then each of these different rooms, so grandiose, so amazing. And I'll tell you, in each and every one of these grand lodges, from London to here, they have a shrine to Akhenaten. And this has been another critical feature of my work, of course, the concept that our president might be a clone of a mummy.
Now, I want to back up and ask a couple of direct questions. The Grand Lodge that is in Australia is probably one of the most extraordinary buildings I have ever seen on any scale. It's just an insane building. Where does that money come from to build something like that? Because it's built way beyond the levels of like what Donald Trump thinks is good craftsmanship. And you know exactly what I'm trying to say here. So where does this money come from to build these temples? And the one in Manhattan, that's not, you know what I mean? I don't want to make light of it to say, oh, it's not cheap. Well, that's not, it's beyond the scope of quality. It's extraordinarily expensive. And that one in Australia just freaks me out. I just watched an entire documentary on that. And where does this money come from?
Well, as you look around that Grand Lodge in Australia, you will see every single prime minister that has ever existed on the wall in his full apron and garb.
Right.
We had this storyline that goes through Freemasonry. It begins with Atlantis. When you go back to the beginning of Freemasonry, they're talking about Atlantis. You're talking about Sir Francis Bacon and his concepts of New Atlantis, which leads into the ideas of transhumanism and the shaping of the world through technology. These are the Invisible College, the secret brotherhood that has been carrying forth knowledge and has been bringing you your very language, your mathematics, and all of the things that we consider civilization are founded within these occult orders, starting back in ancient Atlantis, being covered and taken over by the black magicians, perverted, brought over to the lands after the catastrophe, utilized as a control mechanism. And when you look into these rituals, you'll find that it's really based on trauma-based mind control. You have a sense of death and resurrection within the ritual where you play the dying and resurrected person. And the money itself comes through the massive amount of dues that the brothers have to pay. But realize that one thing that occurred, we had the fall on Friday the 13th with the Knights Templar in 1307. Mm-hmm. And at this point, all of the gold and riches had been dispersed from the Templars' coffers into the hands of the Hospitallers and over to the Jesuits. And They lost control of all of this, but the Templars themselves, I believe the story Braveheart is really the story of the Templar arrival into Ireland and to begin to start the Scottish Rite and start the whole situation over again and regathering all of their wealth. They were the pirates. They flew the flag of the skull and bones and had knowledge that most people didn't have of navigation. So they were able to go and conquer. They were able to go and take. And all of this money has just been piling into their system. But what we find is that there is even a battle within Freemasonry, because you have your blue lodges, your lower level, or what they're considered lower number. The Blue Lodge is in the York Rite. These are the first two, 1 through 3 degrees, right?
Right.
And once you become a Master Mason, according to Masonry, you are a Master Mason. It doesn't matter if you go on from the 4th to the 33rd. You're no better Mason than a 3rd degree Mason. But the Scottish Rite is more like the New World Order. The Scottish Rite is more what people are calling the Illuminati, and that they are taking over all of the lower level York Rite, Blue Lodge systems and taking all of the money. I have a Freemason friend who's working with me at Conspiracy HQ, who's writing The Secret War on Freemasonry, Frauder X, and is blowing this story out because there is an overarching, perhaps Illuminati-related organization called the Scottish Rite, which is the one that Albert Pike was belonged to, and that's where all the money is going. I can tell you that.
You mentioned Aleister Crowley earlier. He wasn't a Freemason, was he?
Oh, yeah. He used to joke about how if he wore all of his Masonic garb and medallions, he would fall on his face.
Well, I only say that because his life was pretty tragic, or the way that it ended. And where were his Mason brothers when you know what I mean, when he was living in destitute and he was living in a halfway house in London and he was bankrupt and everything came crushing down around him. I half expected somebody to rise up and help that guy out, and nobody seemed to be interested. The later part of his life. Why was that?
They don't. I swear to you, this philanthropic, ridiculous club does nothing for their people. I told you I knew the commander of the Knights Templar. Poor fellow has holes in his shoes. He lived in my bus. I'm sorry to give this out on the air, friend. I won't use your name, but
okay.
Here is the commander of the Knights Templar, the lead inspector general of their order that comes and makes sure they're doing all the rituals correctly, and he can't afford a new pair of pants. All right, he's too proud to ask. But at the same time, all of the Masons I know are, and everybody I know is broke, but including the Masons that I know. So no, they really do not seem to take care of their own. I've honestly only seen in the way that they will raise you up through different structures. Like my father, he joined to make it higher in the military. You can't make it past E9 without being a Freemason, right?
Right.
There's that side of this situation. If you want to rise up and you want to have a proper corporation, and that's why I can look around at all the different corporate logos and say, look, this is the Masonic meaning of Starbucks. This is the Masonic meaning of McDonald's, and show you exactly how it relates to the ritual and how they give key signs to one another so that they know that Starbucks is in the club. Okay, let's raise them up. It's not because they have the best coffee. So it has a lot to do with bloodline. Crowley was really an ass, all right?
Yes, yeah, he was.
And he was off doing the crazy sex ritual magic and eating feces and all of that kind of good stuff.
Right.
So I'm sure that they just really didn't want to be associated with them. Even at this time, you cannot admit your OTO membership inside a Masonic lodge. Inside an OTO lodge, you're more than welcome to mention that you're a Freemason, but you can't do it the other way around, even though they really are interrelated but not connected.
I've heard rumors over the years, time and time again, friends of mine in the military and the research that I've done. One crazy thing surfaced over and over again, which is you couldn't get a top secret clearance in any government organization unless you were a Freemason. Is there any truth to that?
I'm certain of that, because I know for a fact that you can't get higher than E9 in the service anyway. So if it's that level, then absolutely. And you can also add to that you can't go into space.
My dad retired in E8, and I can tell you he wasn't a Freemason. So there's something to that that's very interesting. But the whole the checklist, when you're filling out your top secret form and you're looking at, this is what I've heard, that there's a whole, what organizations do you belong to? And like Freemason is the top checkbox, and you can check everything else off, but if you don't check off Freemason, you don't get your top secret clearance. And I just found that fascinating.
As I said, my father was in Project Blue Book, so that's another affirmation to that very idea.
Right. Now back to Crowley really quick. He was, when he was kicked out of Italy and went back to London and ended up at Loch Ness. But was that his period of Freemasonry? Did it happen then, or was it before he went to Italy?
Honestly, I don't know when he was raised. That's the Freemasonic term for becoming a master.
Right.
Okay. I don't have that data in front of me.
I've always found Crowley fascinating. And
I do too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what we're really looking at these days, when you start to look and everybody's talking about Illuminati symbols of the celebrities, what you're really witnessing there is OTO call signs. And when you start to recognize the sexual magic of the OTO and you recognize the codes within their magical order, then you understand why they're putting the triangle in front of their eye or the triangle in front of their forehead. Now, this is not a nod to the eye in the pyramid. It can be, but within ritual magic, that is the triangle of manifestation. And so the goal of putting that triangle in front of you, made from your two hands with your thumbs together, is the idea of transmitting an entity into the population or into a body. So the whole concept of this is invocation or evocation of entities. And really what we're finding in this day and age, one, that our ritual magic is being performed live on the Super Bowl stage as Madonna displays the mark of the beast and the letters that represent the dark side, the abyss, and gives ceremonial kisses to Britney Spears coming down in a ceremonial worshipful master top hat down 13 steps, passing Madonna ship on. We see Lady Gaga openly discussing Illuminati rituals and trauma-based mind control and performing blood rituals on primetime television on American Idol. So currently, our magical rituals are performed blatantly in front of us, as they did in the ancient past in the low days of Atlantis. And we are now all being ritually abused through this trauma, through this horrific mental virus that they are implanting within us. So when we start to look at these symbols and people call Illuminati, I use the term as well because it is now the common thread, the common term. If somebody's going to Google me, I have to use the word. But the truth of the matter is when you're looking at these symbols, the Illuminati is not the group that you're looking for. The Bavarian Illuminati of Adam Weishaupt is not this magical order that is performing these blood sacrifices or, mock blood sacrifices on American Idol. I guarantee you this goes back to Crowley's OTO.
When, especially after I see some of your documentaries and stuff, I tend to look at the world a little bit differently. Certainly with corporate symbolism now, I can't look at Taco Bell the same, and it's just a weird thing to go through. But one of the things, and you're touching upon it now, is the all-seeing eye in entertainment. And once you get exposed to this a little bit, you see it everywhere. And I'm not talking about just, something on a T-shirt or on a poster in the background in a movie scene or something on, something in The Simpsons. But I'm talking about references to entertainment videos or posters or models on a magazine cover where they're all posing with one eye. Is this real? Is this something that that we're just imagining now because we're exposed to it, or is this something absolutely intentional?
You could see an endless stream of celebrities doing a single eye pose. It's ridiculous the amount these type of symbols, and also the devil horn signs. But the single eye, this idea is going to the left path and the right path, and it relates to the Egyptian magic. Now, all magic forms out of Egypt. So even if we're talking about ancient Hebrew mysticism of the Kabbalah, it is still formed out of Egypt. All magic goes back to Egypt and then probably Atlantis. So when you start to see this, what you are looking at is the nod to the dark side as they typically show you the left eye open. The left-hand path of magic is the dark side. And so what you will typically see, and the story goes that Horus, god of war within the Egyptian pantheon, one of the nine, he loses his eye in a battle with his brother Set. And in this, you start to get the storyline of this death and resurrection god Osiris, and of course his phallus, which is represented all over the place too. So the eye, the single eye, left eye, is a representation of Horus, the avenging father or the avenging son of his father Osiris. And then you, of course, see Osiris's penis everywhere you look, whether it's a Washington's monument or Cleopatra's needle. These are all representations of his phallus.
I'm listening.
It's definitely it's a dark world that they're moving us into.
Now, when these celebrities are posing with the all-seeing eye, are they doing it because they think it's cool, or have they joined some dark secret cabal that once you exceed net worth of $10 million, you're influencing society now, and you're called upon to do this? What's the intention?
They all say so, and the outward representation of trauma-based mind control that we're witnessing over and over again within these celebrities the 27 Club and the fall of Britney and the death of Anna Nicole, all of these symbols and signs, and then just openly with Lady Gaga and her very open story about dreaming of ritual abuse. So, you've got Dylan coming forward saying that he sold his soul to Satan. You've got Keisha saying that her vagina is haunted or possessed. You've got everyone saying that they sold their soul to rock and roll, sold their souls to this whole system. And you've got to believe them at some point. When you start to see the satanic references over and over and over again, it's mind-boggling. Most people don't recognize that the Monster Drink logo is the letters V in Hebrew, which is 6. So the Monster Drink logo is 666 in Hebrew. If it were in the Bible, that's what it would look like. The X Games or the X-Men or X-Files, all of these are the representation of the mark of the beast, the O and the X, according to inner workings of the Ordo Templi Orientis. The O and the X, the X-Men logo, is the mark of the beast, which, of course, the beast wears on in the X-Men. So you will start to see these satanic gestures over and over again. Yes, we can clearly says, thank you, Satan, when played in reverse. I mean, just do it yourself. Say, yes, we can, into a radio or into a recorder, flip it. Thank you, Satan, will clearly come out the other side. The name Barack Obama in Hebrew, in Aramaic, in the language of Jesus, the word Barack means from the heights, lightning, and Obama means from the heights, lightning from the heights. Barack Obama is the description of Satan in the Bible. Now, I'm not trying to say Barack Obama is Satan. I'm telling you that there are satanic gestures being constantly bombarded into your psychology at this time, and we are subconsciously taking this all in. What I see is that it's not a blatant, I mean, there are definitely blatant satanic references. You can get your Monster Drink or you can get your demon, right? They've got demon drink. They've got 666 drink, which you can get Lucifer lemonade. Okay, so these power drinks that they're selling are all based on demonic representations. But what I see when I know that the Monster Drink logo is a covert 666, because go look at the Hebrew letter V and tell me that that's not the Hebrew letter V, then realize that the Hebrew letter V is 6, and you'll see it's 666. Over and over again, these signs and symbols. On Madonna's stage when she was at the Super Bowl, she constantly flashed the VVV symbolism all over the stage, which made an O and X in the middle. And so there it was, 666, and the mark of the beast on the stage in front of me. On the X Games, as I was watching last night, it was on the TV in a restaurant I'm at, and there it is, 666, and the mark of the beast. But nobody knows this, so it's not an obvious, they're not intentionally trying to say, hey, look, 666, we're satanic. It's a covert 666, and only those that know recognize it.
How does it, Jay-Z, right? There he is. He's got his Illuminati shirt on. We've all seen, the videos and the pictures. And how does it go down? Does somebody just schedule a meeting with them and then they show up and they have a discussion? Is it a couple of I feel like it has to go down, but how does it go down? Can you comment on that?
On many levels, this begins right with childhood, and the people that select those that are going to be the celebrities look for children that have been sexually abused by their parents. And this story comes up again and again and again and again. And we find that what we have is trauma-based abused children being raised like Michael Jackson.
Okay.
He's a classic example. Britney Spears, Anna Nicole, her mom constantly vicious, always beating her. And this is all public news. If we take in Prince Frederick von Anhalt, who owns Zsa Zsa Gabor, and keeps her locked up in a room with a padlock, you start to see that these people are not in the same plane as just an American Idol winner.
Right.
So these type of people are raised through the surface. And if you count how many Mouseketeers there are, okay, and realize that Walt Disney Co. is at the heart of this satanic network, at the heart of the pedophilic, occult, rape culture, all right? Walt Disney Co. is your enemy. And you should recognize this. Every form of trauma-based mind control that is out there comes through their studios, comes out of their production companies, now going into Star Wars. All right. So there are these filters. There are filters like Walt Disney, distributors that are standing in there that if you ask Corey Feldman, he'll tell you, well, look, I had to get with a bunch of old men to become the Hollywood celebrity I am today. So they go through this type of ritual trauma abuse. They come into this with alters, with multiple personalities. Brittany has a dozen of them. Then they are utilized within the intelligence community, and you'll find this over and over again. And your programming from Hollywood is all coming straight out of the intelligence community. You look at things like J.J. Abrams, who's bringing you Star Trek, Star Wars, Alias, Fringe, and all of his work is sponsored and honored by the Central Intelligence Agency. Most especially Alias was openly identified as written by the Central Intelligence Agency. So you've got this type of network that has all of this money that can just funnel it straight in there. All their drug running and everything else, they're bringing it straight back into the ritual abuse. And then they're utilizing these celebrities to then ritually abuse you. So yeah, it does appear that there comes a time when their handler brings them in, but you got to recognize that they've already been through numerous satanic ritual abuse situations that have created altars and demons and within them. They trust no one, and then they are just handed the reins to the freedom train, if you will, until they're tossed from the freedom train. And much like what you'll see in the Hunger Games, they never escape. No matter how much you win, you never escape. Elvis plotted his death, and you look into him, he's theosophical studies, his love of Madame Blavatsky, his belief that aliens had constantly visited him and that he was a divine being. You look to Michael Jackson and his attempts at immortality, seeking clones, hoping to find a robotic body, and I think eventually time traveling himself. These storylines are just not normal, and these people are not your average people.
What do you think when somebody like yourself with your programming, your investigations, your documentaries, of course this program, you're very visible and you're very outspoken and you are listened to. Well, look, you're in a major Hollywood release now with Don Peyote. And a show like this one, Fade to Black, which is, one of the largest, if not the largest show of its kind on the internet, that when the powers that be, whether it's any three-letter, Washington group, they don't have control now like they used to 20 years ago with programming. Now, a guy like you and a guy like me, not only can we have our own programs, but we can get on a show together, like right now, and speak, and people listen. Is there any sense of control that has come down on you personally? Have you been in contact or have been contacted in any way to censor your views? Has that happened yet, or do you expect it to?
I do lead a charmed life, but I really do feel like there's people on the inside looking out for me. I have been talking to them since the moment they created Echelon.
Right.
My friends in the 90s used to phone me and go, bomb, 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 terrorist, terrorist. Hey, Freeman. Right. Back in the 90s, we were playing with Echelon, right? And so I've openly been who I am, and I have walked this earth, okay, for a decade. For or more. I have wandered this United States. I have been in every state. I've spoken personally to hundreds of thousands of people just wandering this United States. And in that time, I developed this sense of synchronicity, this mysticism, this belief, this strong knowledge that we have a living force that is actively participating in our existence. I've had too many miraculous synchronicities guiding me on a nomad's path. Then I can't deny the truth of it any longer. Synchronicity is a reality. The truth of just being in the moment is so real. And it's something that I really wanted to bring forth to the people. Honestly, the rest of it to me is all kind of like the icing on the cake. If you really wanted what was at the heart of Freeman, it is this concept that the universe is alive and working in your favor. And the more people I can convince of this, and this is harder to convince people of than the idea that there's a new world order. He's just trying to tell people that if you were to just put your life in God's hands, right, that you would find that it's actually there and happening. So I don't know. I think as long as I continue to talk about time traveling Michael Jacksons or Obama being a clone, they don't worry about me too much because no one's going to take me serious. Maybe in 10 years, they'll be like, oh, my God, this guy, he knew he knew all along.
Right.
But at this point, I think I'm so over the top, although I have evidence for every word I say. I will not tell you one thing that I cannot back up with multi resources, okay? And this Obama clone theory is solid, and you really should go look to it. It's amazing. It's mind-boggling. It's got me totally stumped, but at the same time, it's absolutely possible, and I will give you every reason to believe so. But so on that level, all I know is certain videos of mine have been banned worldwide on YouTube, but allowed on other people's channels. My website has been taken down at some of the most heinous moments when I'm about to have a big moment. But other than that, and my inability to get through to coast, I really haven't felt that there has been anything standing in my way.
Well, coast to coast just doesn't like anything cool. So there you go. If you're not into vitamins, it's kind of hard to get on their show. Hey, and we'll talk about that in a second. I had a couple of emails that came in that I do want to address, and it's about the E9 top security clearance. So here you go. Hi, Jimmy. I just got I have to call BS on the E9 and top secret clearance in the military. First, there is no rank above E9 or Sergeant Major. I was an 03. I am not a Freemason, and I've had I had a pretty high clearance, again, with a couple of things that come out. So that was one, and I got another email. That was from Brad. And then Walter Lewis sent in, listening to your show, I can, however, say with certainty that I have that a security clearance does not depend on Freemason membership. It is not required. I had a security clearance through my short military career with the Air Force. So those came in back to back. All I'm referencing, I'm going to address this, and then I want you to chime in. I have heard this from over and over and over and over again from so many different sources. And that's why I had to throw that out there with you. I've never talked about Freemasons on this show. I've left it go. It's a very taboo subject to me. I don't know what my friends around me are Freemasons. I don't know, and it's always a big mystery. Nobody's come up to me and said, "Hey, man, you want to come join the lodge?" I don't know the secret handshake. Do you know the secret handshake, by the way?
I do. I know all the passcode secret handshakes, and for most of the I could fake it. I could be what they call a Cowan.
So when that really happens, one guy comes up to another guy and just shakes his hand a certain way, and if he gets a response back, then they both know that they're Freemasons. This is what it's like urban legend, but
you could stand with your feet at a 90-degree angle in the middle of a room, and a Mason would recognize you, no doubt about it.
Oh, I thought that was a Crip and Blood thing.
Well, those are actually spawned out of Freemasonry as well. A lot of the biker gangs and the ghetto gangs, whatever you want to call them, have been spawned out of appendant bodies of Freemasonry, or at least have been influenced by them. So a lot of those type of things did transfer over. Same with Mormonism. I mean, Mormonism is simply Freemasonry redone.
I want you to look into, with your network, I'm going to dig into this a little bit further about this top secret clearance thing. And
right. What I can say is that, as you said, I've just had so many people tell me this, and my father himself telling me, and maybe it's for top secret clearance because that's where my father was at. I have pictures of my father with Jimmy Carter on the first nuclear submarine. I can prove every word I say. I'm not throwing any smoke up yet.
Right. Right. I know, and I'm with you, and I want to make it clear. I'm talking about top secret clearance. I'm not just talking about some security issues to get you a badge. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm talking about top secret clearance. But also, Walter said one thing in here at the end of his email. He says, interesting fact about the Freemasons is that a lodge does exist in every single town in the country, no matter how small. Is that true?
From my point of view, yeah, I've seen one in generally every single town I've ever been to. Yeah.
Wow. And now the actual origins to Freemasonry, and again, I've listened to every program over the last 20 years on the subject. I've seen all the videos, but let's clear up a couple of things on Freemasons, and then we'll move on. Is the very origins of Freemasonry all the way back to the construction of all of the stuff that went down in Egypt 3,000 or 5,000 years ago? Is that the basic origins of Freemasons?
Well, the basic origins are Solomon's Lodge, so Solomon's Temple. Every lodge is based on Solomon's Temple. But, of course, was there a Solomon? Is the analogy for a solar deity? Is this the idea of your soul being transformed through this type of ritual? So, but when you find there's the Atlantis history to Freemasonry, there's an Adam and Eve history to Freemasonry going into Tubal Cain, and then there is just your standard history where they popped up in 1717 in England and formed the first Grand Lodge. Of course, there were lodges prior to this.
Right. So, but again, back to Egypt, back
to Babylon, really.
Okay.
Back to Nimrod and the great builder. Really, Babylon is where you want to look. If you go into George Washington's Masonic Memorial in Washington, D.C., just look into it. That you will find in there the Tower of Babel in the building. They have Solomon's throne there on a giant hexagram. You will consistently see the Star of David in every Grand Lodge. You would think they were Jewish if you were to start. If you didn't know any better and you walked into a lodge, you would think they were Jewish.
Let's change the subject. We've got about an hour left, and we've got a lot to talk about. Okay, so first thing, Don Peyote. How was it? What's it like to sit in a movie theater and see yourself on the big screen? That must have been pretty creepy or thrilling, or a combination of the both. But how's Don Peyote doing, and what was the experience like dealing with Hollywood?
Oh my God, that was a huge check on my bucket list for sure. Oh my God, going to Hollywood to see myself on the big screen was definitely one of the highlights of my existence. I had no idea what was going on with Dan when he asked me to be in this film. I honestly didn't even, like I told you, I run on whim, I run on synchronicity. So when I got this invitation to be flown to New York to be filmed, I assumed it was a documentary. And
I just lost you.
Oh,
there you are.
Back?
Oh, that was you. That wasn't me. Okay, good.
Yeah. Somehow the mic shut down.
Okay.
So I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't look up Dan's name when I was going into it. I just went and go up to this strange apartment, and I'm like, well, I'm here, and I see him, and I said, I know you. And he's like, you don't know me. And I'm like, no, I'm certain I know you. And he says, you might know my movies. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, Balls of Fury, Good Luck Chuck, Taking Woodstock, Fanboys. And I'm like, oh my God, you're that guy. You're the Balls of Fury. Holy shit. Funny thing about the bus is that the same thing happened. Okay, so we filmed Don Peyote. They filmed me for 40 hours all over New York. I shocked them by reading Don Peyote's tarot and actually read the plot of the movie in the cards. And this just freaked them all out. Now, honestly, I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was filming a documentary. And so I just did this for them. And it turned out that I was reading the plot of the movie. So this became a big part in the movie, where I'm the guy who actually sends Warren Allman, the lead character, off on his Don Peyote trip. And that was exciting. My last message in the movie was really awesome to me, was that friendship is the new currency. And this is the other philosophy I'm really trying to invoke in people, is the idea of this friendship currency. The friendship agenda is what I'm hosting now to get us all together. And I'll tell you, it works. You can go all over this planet on nothing but friendship. I've done it. I can prove it. And I'll show you. So it was great to go out and meet up with Dan, to shock him a bit, to share around stuff, to just, just have a good time showing him the Mason Temple and running into fans all over the place of mine. And the funny thing is that they really didn't do any promotions for the movie. They had a preview up on YouTube, but other than that, they didn't even post on Facebook that they were going to do this bus trip. So there really weren't that many people just showing up, except I had it splashed all over FreemanTV.com. So everybody that did show up was there to see me. People were piling in on the bus, and no one knew who Dan was. No one even, he was the celebrity in the background. Ironically, at one point, a burned out hippie just stumbles onto, Dan had managed to get the craziest bus ever to take this Don Peyote tour around Hollywood and go down to San Francisco, or up to San Francisco. It was a big black bus with a black anaconda painted down the side of it. It looked like the craziest thing. People were staring at us left and right.
Right.
And more people were coming on the bus just because they saw this bus sitting in the parking lot and like, what is this? And one drugged out or just burned out, I don't know, hippie just comes on the bus out of nowhere, and he sees Dan coming out of the back, and he's like, Balls of Fury. And he was literally the only person to recognize Dan. And I'm sorry that's funny to me.
It is.
But they really didn't do enough promotion. I'm sorry. I don't think they understand what it's like to be on the ground floor like we do, where you have to do all the running yourself and tell everyone that you got to come see my stuff. And so turnout was somewhat small. I think a lot of people were there randomly, and I think they were fully shocked by the dark satire that is Don Peyote. It's a good story. Unfortunately, in my opinion, they cut out a lot of the meat of it because they couldn't include all of the interviews that Dan had gone and done. So that kind of lost some of the flow of why Warren Allman was having this meltdown.
Right.
I am impressed to say that Anne Hathaway is in the movie, and she is the character that sends him on the psychedelic downward spiral by telling him everything from Bilderberger to 911. So he gets the down low. I did get a chance to ask some of the audience that I thought were random if they'd ever heard of any of these things before, chemtrails or Bilderbergers, because he would have a question and answer. I decided to question the audience after the show, and none of them knew what any of these things were. I wonder what they were thinking as they watched Don Peyote.
Well, that's with Dan, and one of the things with him that I was so fascinated with when he was on the show, he knew about every subject that was ever discussed on this show or any other show, including yourself, whether it was the Montauk chair or chemtrails or whatever it was. He knew exactly. He's a well-researched guy, is what I'm getting to. Now, do you think by he exposing himself so openly in a public forum like this, you think it's going to hurt his career? Or do you think he cares? I mean, Hollywood knows, about these taboo subjects, and he's
a bit nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. And they play on that in the movie as well, having Topher Grace as his manager, kind of like, what are you doing, Dan? Why are you making this film? So the film is actually on multi-tiers. At some points, you're not in the movie anymore. Now you're watching Topher Grace pretend to be his agent. And that was a lot of the true fear that was coming out while he was making this. I think it's a very bold step, and I'm so excited that Hollywood's finally. It's horrible that it requires a celebrity to come out and say something for people to listen. I mean, Prince said chemtrails are making all his friends crazy and beat one another up. And this is viral, and everybody's like, oh my God, Prince is talking about chemtrails. And we've been talking about it for 20 years. Prince didn't say anything. He just said it, but it does have that impact on society. And I really want to utilize that. I want Dan to come join Conspiracy HQ and start promoting his interviews that he did as Warren Ullman, because he interviewed a bunch of people and he went all over the world to get these great interviews, and he's going to release them later as a documentary. I want to see if I can get him to get on our new network and start releasing this stuff. But to get the Hollywood stars to start coming forward, if we can get Corey Feldman to talk about his abusive story, if we can have more and more, we want this Release the Stars campaign to take off, because unfortunately they are the ones that have influence on the minds of the masses.
I've known Corey for years, and I knew his dad too as well. So yeah, Bob Feldman is his dad, and wow, yeah, I'd be interested in that, and I could certainly help open that door. But I don't know if he would get as public as he is on some crazy subjects. And then not only that, but you had this whole scandal that I really don't want to get into right now, but this whole scandal that broke in Hollywood over this very subject over the last couple of weeks here, and it seems to have, as big as sensational as it got, without getting into specifics, it's also died off really, really quickly in the last 7 days. And and again, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to name names, but it's such a dark, taboo world, and to think that some of that stuff could actually be going on in Hollywood, it's one of those things. Like I said, it's a subject nobody wants to talk about. I don't care who you are, whether you're in Hollywood or you're a housewife in the Midwest. Nobody wants to talk about that subject. And once it went mainstream 2 weeks ago, and then suddenly now it's gone. It's disappeared like the MH370, and I'm being serious about that too.
Yeah, I mean, pedophilia is horrific. It's hard to imagine that these people exist, and the ritual pedophiles that we witness within the higher levels of the occult realms. They openly talk about this in rituals. It's in Crowley's works, whether you want to accept that he's talking about actually sacrificing children, or if you think he's talking about masturbation. Right. Everybody tries to justify their own religion, but we know ritual sacrifice goes on. We know this abuse of the children goes on. We know that the Catholic Church has had way too many to say that they're not deep into this situation. Walt Disney Co., one of the largest purveyors of pornography, owning pay-per-view, and constantly hiding pedophilia attacks from the public that occur inside of the parks, hiring pedophiles to dress up in the Mickey Mouse costumes, openly knowing that this is what's going on. And it's like a little cult inside of Disney World, and everyone knows.
And, back to Alex Jones. When Alex was speaking really loudly about this stuff, and he was a very young guy at the time. But when he was talking about the Bilderbergs and the Illuminati and New World Order and the chaos in the world and things that were, nobody took him serious. And here we are today. I think Alex Jones is somebody that we should take a little bit serious. As crazy as some of his stuff is, and it does get pretty nutty at times, but it turns out, Bilderberg was real. You know what I mean? And some of the things that he claimed, well, it all came to pass. And so how do you take a guy like Alex Jones today? Do you take him serious?
Now, Alex and I have a bit of a past, and it's not, anything. Okay, in my opinion, Alex Jones is Chicken Little. I hate to say this to people. I know it upsets a lot of people, but I personally know Alex. And so a lot of the ideas that he's a paid shill, I'll probably get crucified for saying this, but I personally do not believe he is a knowing paid shill. But in the Chicken Little theory, in the idea that he is being fed certain knowledge that he then brings forth to us other chickens, which leads us to being eaten by the fox.
Right.
This I completely agree with. Now, Walt Disney, we've hit on it a few times, but they laid it out there in their Disney on the Front Lines. Get a copy of it. You can only buy it from Disney. Their wartime propaganda. Look at what they were saying. Look how they were setting this thing up. And then look again at Alex Jones. Yes, the knowledge that he's bringing us is real, but it is engineered to cause a reaction in a political type of fight and flight sensation that he doesn't know that he's Chicken Little. Chicken Little didn't know he was leading everybody to be eaten by the fox.
Right.
So that's what I see in Alex Jones. He has done an amazing job. He started in the same chair I started in, and we both were at Access and Access Studios. I got to meet him the first time when I was going on the air for the very first time, and I hit him up with, so I hear you're the only other guy that predicted 9/11. And he's like, well, I didn't predict the day. And I kind of polished my nails like, oh, okay, because I did. And then I said, well, the owl is not Molech, right? And he's like, well yeah, it's already out there. What can I do? And it really did take on a life of its own. But Alex is not knowledgeable in these occult realms. He saw them sacrificing a baby effigy to a giant burning owl. And
Right.
This was reminiscent of what they would do with Molech,
Right.
who was a bull.
Right.
Okay, there is no owl Molech, all right? Let's just take that out of our vernacular at this point, please. There is no owl for Molech. That is a representation of Columbia, our goddess. This is where it goes back to Minerva, Athena. That's where you find your owl. And the concepts of seeing in the dark and being able to see around yourself in 270 degrees. These are the things that go with the owl, not Molech. But I can totally understand why he would think that this was a representation. And, maybe they've changed the concept. But anyway, Molech is not an owl. It is a bull. And Alex is an ego, okay? And egos are horrible in this business. And it is easily utilized by the manipulators. Let's just put it that way. And all they got to do is feed the ego, and the rest comes out.
When we look at guys like David Icke and Alex Jones, I don't want to throw John B. Wells in there because he's not, a loud guy, but he certainly is an information intelligent guy. But I look at all of those guys, and I truly believe this. I think Alex Jones has a big heart. I really do. I bet you he is a great family guy. I bet you he's a great dad. I bet you a cookout at the Alex Jones house is second to none. And I really mean that. And the same thing with, David Icke. I really honestly believe he's been on this show, and I had the reason why I had him on this show is because I like the guy, and I know that he's got a great, tremendous heart, and he cares about the world. And it's the same thing with Alex. And I just feel like maybe they could get the same message out without having to be Chicken Little, without having to, run around and scream that, everything is burning down. And that's how I feel. So I saw an interview with Alex and Joe Rogan, right? I don't know if you've seen this video, but it's actually really good. And it's backstage before Joe Rogan literally goes on stage. In fact, I think Alex follows him out right onto the stage. So it's in the dressing room, in Joe's dressing room. And, you listen to this interview and you look at Alex and it's like he's a different guy. It's like, where does this guy come from? And did you have that same experience? Does he have a light switch that he flicks on and off?
He's a little goofy face to face, and as far as the barbecue at his house, he has just installed a $560,000 swimming pool with a built-in grill and pizza oven. So you would have an absolutely tremendous time at Alex Jones's pool party. But anyone... I mean, I hate to be the guy that knows, but anyone that works with Alex, that deals with Alex, eventually hates Alex. There's not one person I know that doesn't hate him with a lot of passion after just knowing him for, a while.
Hey, you've been on a show too, right?
Sure. I've done a good few hours with Alex. We had a great time. It was amazing because he sat there and just waved me on. He didn't interrupt me at all. I don't know what the deal was, but he just let me go on for 3 hours straight. And I just kept laying it out there on him. It was really good. It was a crazy time for me. I was actually at the Rainbow Gathering in Washington or somewhere, I don't know, and Wyoming, I think, and had to hitchhike all the way back to Texas to get on the air with him. So I'm actually really all jazzed up on caffeine and hardly any sleep. I had raced. I mean, it took days to hitchhike back home from the Rainbow Gathering and just jump into the studio live with Alex Jones. Oh, my God. That was insane.
Well, I think he respects anybody that he respects. Okay,
well, he had to deal with me. I'm sorry to interrupt, but he had to deal with me because everywhere, like I say, I was in the same chair as him. So we started back on Access before there was Google videos, before there was YouTube, and people were just watching Access, and they were writing and calling Alex and saying, well, why can't you be more like Freeman? He's just kind of cool and just kind of, he's giving me the knowledge, but it doesn't freak me out. And Alex heard this so much that by the time he released, I think it was Terror Storm, we were sitting in the back of the theater together watching the premiere, and he's nudging me saying, see, I'm not yelling as much. Yeah, you see, I don't, yeah. So he had to deal with me. There's nothing he could do.
Let's talk a couple of other. I'm going to change gears. We have about 30, 40 minutes left, and let's try to get as much in. I want to take advantage of your time here, and of course, I would love to have you back anytime, and we can pick up where we left off. But let's. When it comes to the subject of chemtrails. There's for me, I can't get information. I have people out there that are always sending me stuff. We're trying to dig. We're trying to confirm. How is this kept secret? Why aren't pilots coming forward? Why aren't there whistleblowers? Why isn't there a video smuggled out from a cell phone inside of a cockpit of one of these planes that is flying? If it's real, how can it be kept so secret? How is that possible?
That is a very good question, and I've had a lot of theories on how that could be so. Now, the chemtrail program in America seemed to start in the mid-'90s, and this was about the same time that they were announcing that NATO was flying foreign forces in our airways. So we had all of a sudden have foreign forces over our skies, and next thing we know, we have chemtrails. Now, back in the time of the Gulf War, they were openly talking and showing these grids on the insurgents in the Middle East and saying that we were feeding them barium so that we could track them on radar. Now, there is only one radar that tracks the barium in the system, and that is the X-band radar. And that X-band radar was crafted there in Texas. And right as Hurricane Katrina struck, that was when they sent this X-band radar all the way down South America because it couldn't go across the Panama Canal. It was too big to go sit up next to the HARP system in Alaska. So now this X-band radar is sitting off the coast of Alaska and the HARP system sitting there. When you look to the two components that were consistently being, let's stick to why they would be secret or how they would keep this secret. One thing that I've been tracking consistently is solar flares. I have been watching the SOHO satellites since the early 90s and have been able to predict the weather watching solar flares. Wish I'd told my wife not to go to the pool the other day because there was an X class and she came home fried.
Right.
This has a huge impact on our weather and on our state of mind, as that has been shown. And when you start to recognize HARP being basically a solar flare ground-based organization, it's a system that would send a solar flare into the ionosphere or to pretend to be one, a synthetic solar flare, if you will.
Right.
Well, what I've noticed is that the chemtrails are not there on the days of the X-class flares. And if you watch this, I've been looking for correlations all over, 20 years now. I've been trying to find correlations within chemtrails. Why today? What's going on? And what I've absolutely seen is that on the days of X-class flares or even M-class, they do not fly the chemtrail planes. And I am personally going on the theory now that they are radio-controlled airplanes and possibly run by NATO, so there is no open government knowledge to even come forward. There's no one in the military that has anything to do with it.
Well, hold on. Let me stop you right there. So you're suggesting that they're radio controlled because if during a solar flare they would
lose all control.
They would lose control.
You lose all GPS. You lose everything up there. When the satellites go down, the radios go down. They even lost a mine due to a solar flare shutting down all of the electronics because this causes an EMP or even just disturbances in the ionosphere and the magnetosphere. And so if they were running remote controlled jets, you would not run them during a solar flare.
Are chemtrails, now I understand the military aspect of it, in the event of war, then they would be used somewhere else. But is this a United States exclusive issue or problem, or is are they running chemtrails over the United Kingdom? Are they doing this over Holland, Germany, Russia, China, Japan, South America, Brazil? Is this a global thing, and is every government participating?
It is global. There's no doubt about it. All over Australia, it was crazy. There was some weird frequency patterns that were forming in the grid patterns. I have plenty of pictures of that. Over London, I have a great shot that I'll be releasing on my new show, Conspiracy Science Theater, of jets, of the chemtrail jets going over London. I have got video of 5 chemtrail jets flying side by side. Try and tell me these are passenger liners. Tell me. You look at some of these pictures and you see loops going on in the sky. What passenger liner do you know that does a loop? The chemtrail phenomenon has been one that I've been watching with a close eye from the very beginning. As I say, they reported it openly in the Gulf War. This is how I learned of the barium tracing. And then as a wanderer, I tell you, I've wandered this United States for a decade. I am quite Chain Kane,
Right.
I just go around making friends. And I witnessed as this chemtrail program began, and this stuff was falling to the ground, and we were having spider-like web substances in the yards. And if you touched this stuff, you immediately got flu-like symptoms. As I told you, now that is a key symptom of barium poisoning. And as I told you, I was going to rainbow gatherings, been going to them for a dozen years. And the Rainbow is actually classified as a terrorist organization and can be openly manipulated through these terrorist organizations, that they can come in and do things to us, and it's not a crime for them. And one year they seemed to be feeding barium into the water system that we were all drinking and eating from, and I developed a horrible blood poisoning. I then 2 weeks later ended up in the hospital thinking I was having a heart attack. And they tested me. They did everything. They said, no, you're not having a heart attack. And I said, well, I don't come to doctors. I hate you guys. Why am I here? I'm freaking out. I couldn't feel my left side. And another doctor came by. I demanded that somebody tell me something. He looked at my chart and said, well, all I can see here is that you're very low on potassium. That is another major symptom of barium poisoning. So what they would do, and I was also at the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show, and this was another big clue for me. At the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show, you have the largest collection of world travelers that use money as opposed to credit or credit cards, debit cards. These are very cash-oriented people that are world travelers making lots of money on gems and minerals. I had never seen chemtrails this thick. The Tucson Gem and Mineral Show was just the most heinous thing I had ever seen. So I wandered around the thing and I told everyone how they were going to feel tomorrow. I was warning them that they were going to think they have the flu. Do not think you do not have the flu. You are suffering from heavy metal poisoning. The cure is completely different. You need things that are going to remove heavy metal poisonings from your system, such as clay or I forgot.
Clay?
Yeah, bentonite clay. You drink that, and it absorbs the metal into the bentonite clay and takes it out of your system. It's very hard to get these heavy metals out of your system.
What's the reason though in peacetime? What's the reason for spraying barium?
Okay, well, as I was saying, the X-band radar is the one that can detect barium in the system. So they could actually see when groups of people are gathering. They could also watch the dispersal of rainbow or the dispersal of these people that were gathering at the Gem and Mineral Show, track them on the X-band radar. But the other major component within the chemtrails that has been shown over and over again through numerous tests, people have been looking at this for decades, as aluminum. And aluminum, of course, is what you would make an antenna out of. And so now you've got these two components, the barium and the aluminum. You've got HAARP and the X-band radar sitting out there. HAARP, of course, is a radio frequency transmitter, and you are now an antenna. So these systems can then be utilized using these various. Now, HAARP is only one of the ionospheric heaters with these capabilities. There's iSCAT, which is most famously known for the Norway spiral. Mm-hmm. There is the VLF array in Australia. There are numerous arrays around the globe. And Sura in Russia, which many believe caused Hurricane Katrina, or at least steered it. And so now we are antennas that also show up on radar. So when a clampdown does occur, if we were to go and gather in the woods like the rainbow would, we'd shine like a massive beacon, and then we could be hit with these ultra-low radio frequency waves and just put to the ground.
Why? I'm trying to think of, there's an obvious tracking. I get that from the government and being able to see the ebb and flow of the masses on a computer screen somewhere. I get that. Is there another reason for chemtrails? I always thought it was weather related. Trying to control the weather was one of my theories. There's also population control. Maybe they want to cause issues on certain parts of the globe where they're trying to control populations. Is that another reason, or is it just to track?
No, there's a multitude of reasons for chemtrails. Obviously, they use it as a solar shield. We are in one of the most heinous moments of our solar activities. Never before have we seen solar flares of this class and this multitude. They they're freaking out about this. Okay, this is a big deal. The kill shot, as Dr. Doom would call it, the solar flare that strikes the planet and just wipes us out. It's very, very possible. The last X-class flare was 7 times the size of Earth. So they are very concerned with this. When we start to realize that these ancient brotherhoods have knowledge going back perhaps as far as 50,000 years ago to the times of Atlantis, then they have an idea of cosmological time. So we have this precession of the equinox that we go through, and if you were to realize that we are moving, right? So our entire solar system is moving, and there is galactic weather. And if you had some knowledge from the ancient past of what you were going to run into in galactic weather, as we are seeing currently, all of the planets are heating up. We are running into some disturbance in space. And so perhaps they have some more knowledge of our ancient past and the catastrophes that occurred, and are preparing for that right now.
You bring up Atlantis, and it's a good segue for lost civilizations. And you have we share the same views, but you're a little. Let's just talk about that for a second. When my philosophy is, and I say it almost every day on this show, somehow it always comes up, but my view on the pyramids in Egypt is that they've been there for a long time. And, the Egyptians, the pharaohs, and when the Upper and Lower Egypt, joined and the kingdom started, they just backed over those pyramids. They were already there. And they look the same then as they do now, and they've been there for a long, long time. I really feel that we've had many civilizations over, the 3.5 billion years that this planet has been around. And you just said 50,000 years ago. I share that same view. And so how do you look at that? And how many civilizations do you think have rolled over and ended throughout history?
That's impossible to know, really. Some say 4, some say 6, depending on what traditions you look towards. Native Americans, they have a belief system that goes back many civilizations, and Egypt, of course, and telling the Greeks that they were but children. They had no idea how long. The King's List of ancient Egypt goes back tens of thousands of years, with lifespans that seem incredible to us, much like the biblical lifespans of 1,000 years. These ancient pharaohs were living, 5,000, 3,000 years. They had a belief system that 3,000 years or more in the future, they would return. And this was the purpose for mummification. So the ancient structures of Egypt, Egypt's history runs backwards. They start with full science, full mathematics, language, and architecture. I went to Kansas University for ancient architectural studies, and they tell you openly that the older pyramids are far superior to the new pyramids. This shows you clearly with the history that runs backwards that they were a transplant colony from somewhere. And when you start to look to this pyramid structure, you recognize its geocentric placement on the planet. It is centralized in the largest landmass. I sometimes wonder if they weren't set there to even balance the Earth again because of the specific mathematics that are included in there. I've had many theories on why the pyramids were there. Personally, when I look to Graham Hancock's work, Fingerprints of the Gods, and I start to look at the structures of ancient Egypt, they look like computer chips. There is no reason why we wouldn't eventually develop planetary-sized computers. When we start to look at what we're doing with microchips now. Now, recognize what a computer is. It's all subterranean. It's a quartz crystal that gives you your megahertz. It's all subterranean gases and golds and mica that compose your computer. It's all subterranean. So when you start to look at the ancient structures of the past, like in Chichen Itza, you'll find a structure that has mica, a sheet of mica under the stone flooring. Now, there's absolutely no reason in a logical sense of just architecture why you would first transport this large sheet of mica, which would be nearly impossible for us to do today because it is so fragile.
And not only that, but how many miles away? There's no mica anywhere around there, and so why would they, go and mine it from such great distances just to bring it to line a pyramid?
Yeah,
I never.
exactly.
That is one, and for archaeology to ignore that, I think is fascinating. And if you're an archaeologist and you bring up that subject, you might not get your degree.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the unfortunate part of this whole puzzle. But why it's so great that we can all now share all of this knowledge, because it's there. And when you look, they have tunnels going into the earth. They have gold. They have the subterranean gases, everything. And they even look like computer nodes placed into a giant earth grid.
Right. Oh, I want to address something really quick to everybody on Twitter right now. No, I am not editing anything. My arms are crossed. I sit there and watch the feed go across, but as you can tell, I'm in the middle of an interview. So there's nobody here editing. I don't know what's going on. Somebody's messing with Twitter right now, Freeman. It's kind of weird. We don't know who it is. And there's been some comments that have been edited or deleted. And it's kind of weird. And I'm watching this, and everybody's frustrated. They're trying to figure out what's going on. I'm just thinking, Freeman comes on the show and trouble starts. It's just okay. Now let's. I just had to get that out so everybody could understand that it's not coming from me. You're not editing, are you? You can't edit. How do you even edit Twitter? Can you do that? I don't think you can you?
I don't know how.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know either. I'm watching this. Are you reading the feed? Are you reading?
Is this on the hashtag DMR radio?
Yeah. And it's So here's the response. No one is saying you are editing. It's Twitter editing. And again, no, I'm only saying to you that it is not me. Whatever is going on or whatever is the problem is, it's not coming from this end. That is bizarre. That it has to deal with subject matter too. Okay, so but yeah, and not only when it comes to lost civilizations or the answers to things, you said it right. Not only are Egyptologists taught in Egypt or here in the United States, when you go to touch that subject matter, you are taught that they hit the ground running, and and you're absolutely right. That's go ahead. Go ahead.
Let's go to Zahi Hawass. All right.
Absolutely. Let's go right there. Let's go.
The head of the Giza Plateau for a time until he was fired for misconduct, taking bribes, and I heard also sexual favors for archaeological digs. Now, Zahi Hawass, he has been the guy in control of the Giza Plateau since they planned the capping of the Great Pyramid with gold at Y2K. Now, honestly, that was the thing that freaked me out on Y2K. When people were talking about a computer meltdown, I was like, you don't understand. They're capping the Great Pyramid with gold. This should be really a concern to you. And everybody just looked at me like I was green. But, of course, it got canceled. And there is a December 18th, 1999 USA Today headline that I'm dying to get, so I'm going to bring it up on the show. December 18th, 1999, USA Today headline reads, Muslims stop the Freemasons from capping the Great Pyramid with gold. Huh? I want that. Yeah, I want that. You can't get it on the USA Today website. You can't find it anywhere. If anyone has backlogged of USA Today, you see they don't database USA Today. They're not in your library. They're not anywhere. You can get back orders of certain editions on their website, but you can't get that one. And that's what it said. Muslims stop the Freemasons from capping the Great Pyramid with gold. That was the headline. I wish I'd kept the paper myself. But so Zahi has been around since then. He's been around forever and has been just a thorn in archaeologists' side. Once again, only taking bribes. He considered himself the Indiana Jones of Egypt and was just a pompous ass. This guy, oh my God, I hated him so much. And he was standing in the way of everything. But what he would constantly state was that there's no such thing as ancient civilizations. The Egyptians used slaves and ropes to pull these blocks and build the pyramids. And he stood strong on all of this. But what you didn't know, what most of the world doesn't know, is that Zahi Hawass was put through the University of Pennsylvania's archaeological department by the Edgar Casey group. All right.
Okay.
Now, why can't I think of their name?
ACE. What's it called? ARE.
The ARE, yeah, absolutely. Association of Research and Enlightenment is Edgar Casey's group, who is the lead. His main topic is Atlantis, and Edgar Casey was a psychic that was the sleeping prophet who could channel people's illnesses and come up with diagnoses that doctors could never come up with, and he would do it remotely over the phone and cured numerous people. Heavy duty Christian fellow, but constantly getting these messages about past lives in Atlantis. And he would do psychic readings on people, and he'd constantly find these stories of Atlantis. They have entire racks and books and stuff on Atlantis. And these are the people that put Zahi Hawass through college. Now, as ardent as Zahi is to state that slaves and ropes built the pyramids, he still, to this very day, does presentations at the ARE.
I did not know that.
Yes, most people don't know that. And then he went on to build a DNA lab underneath the Cairo Museum, and then suddenly announced that he had Akhenaten's DNA. Now, this has been an archaeological nightmare forever. The moment they found the KV-55 tomb, they were certain that they had found Akhenaten's tomb, this renegade pharaoh. But they could not prove it because the tomb had been completely desecrated and had all markings of Akhenaten scraped off. But they did see Queen T's toilet in there. They did see the family members that seemed to be, that they called the elder lady and the younger lady. But no one for 100+ years could prove that they had actually found Akhenaten's mummy. Lo and behold, on Discovery Channel, of all things, after Zahi builds his DNA lab in Cairo, disallowing anyone to study these mummies, other than himself at this Cairo DNA lab, and announces on Discovery Channel that he has the KV-55 DNA and that it is Akhenaten. And this caused a major uproar in the archaeology world. They were like, come on, we've been at this 100+ years, and you're just now telling us that this is Akhenaten for certain. And he says, yes, it was a national security secret.
Why?
Yeah.
And this is the thing. He wants to be the guy in control. And there's two things that need to honestly happen just to put some issues to bed. Number one, they need to do some heavy military-style ground-penetrating radar around the Sphinx. Deep underground, deep to the side, and let's put to bed finally what is underneath the Sphinx. That's got to happen. And they've done nothing but put Band-Aids on that issue. Oh, we've done it a little bit. If you know what I'm saying. Also, underneath the Great Pyramid. We need to, and the Great Pyramid itself, because I'm telling you right now, it's a fact. I don't care what anybody has to say to me. There are rooms inside the Great Pyramid that we haven't found yet. It's that simple. And there's no way that they sealed off the king's chamber from the outside because it was sealed off from the inside, and there were no bodies that were found on the inside. So somebody, whoever built it when, had to leave the king's chamber through another hallway. And so there are rooms that are there that they don't want discovered, and they know they are there. They know it. They, the Japanese accidentally found some rooms, but nobody wants to go and investigate. And the same thing with anyway, I don't want to dwell on this, but Zahi has poo-pooed on all of that. And it would answer quite a few questions that everybody has had over the years. What is really there underneath that sand? Let's go and find out. And Hawass didn't. And now, okay, I'll let you answer that statement. It was more of a statement than a question.
Oh, he stood in direct opposition, no doubt about it, and disallowing so many of the alternative researchers to go and do their homework. There's even supposedly a new technology that can determine the placing of a stone by how much sunlight has been removed from it, for how long it's been out of the sun.
Yeah, it's a form of it's almost like carbon dating, and it only works on stones that have been exposed to the sun. So if something has been buried under the ground and hasn't hit direct sunlight, then you can't do it. You're absolutely right. And you can do it with the surface stones on the pyramid. You can't do it with the ones on the inside.
Right.
Yep.
But they could get an idea. There's no doubt about it. This knowledge is their power. This is the only time you ever find people openly discussing Atlantis like a reality is when you start to get into the occult orders, Freemasonry, and deeper appending bodies like that. That's when you start to find people discussing Atlantis as a history as opposed to a myth.
Okay, I'll tell you. I'm going to tell the world this story right now. I've never said it in public, but I got a buddy of mine that was a cameraman for the History Channel, and I'm whispering like somebody's listening right now. I don't need to whisper, but maybe it sounds better. Dramatic license. And he goes, man. So I'd go over there and I would film with Hawass, and it was the craziest thing because he wouldn't ever go underground. And he would never go into, he had claustrophobia. He's not a real anything investigator. Everybody else would do the digging and the cameras would go in front of him. And he would like stand in the background and ask what we were seeing when any tomb was opened or any excavation or anything that happened. He would be outside. He would, I was like, what? He goes, dude, man, it's no. He wouldn't have anything to do with any excavations or any digging or any shots of him being inside of any tomb or anything were just done for fleeting seconds before he would have a panic attack and he would have to leave. I was like, really? How's that? Chew on that one.
You can have an opportunity to witness that for yourself. There was a Unwrapping Egypt with Maury Povich, I believe it was.
Uh-huh.
And Zahi Hawass, this is when he unveiled the tomb of Osiris, when he had suddenly discovered the tomb of Osiris, deep, 750 feet or more deep into the earth. They found the tomb of Osiris. Now, they have later changed that name to the Osiris Shaft. And as I say, all of the obelisks are representations of Osiris' shaft. But the tomb of Osiris, they said they had found this god's tomb. And you can watch this. And what happens is Zahi really ribs Maury as he starts to go into the first mummy's chamber to go uncover and show himself with the mummy that they had discovered. And Maury freaks out. I mean, but Zahi's riding him hard. He's like, I told you not to shave. You shouldn't have shaved. You're going to die. And the whole way down, he's telling him he's going to die. And so he's down there freaking out. And he's like, I got to get out of here. And you don't see.
Oh. Sorry about that. Are you still there? Are you still there? That was my bad. Freeman, hold on. Just stay with me. Sorry, everybody. I clicked on a mouse and I disconnected Freeman, and I thought I brought him back. Oh, how embarrassing. I should act like nothing is going on. So anyway, yeah, Zahi Hawass. I'm looking at the connection here. It should be just about done. Oh, Freeman, if you can hear me, I'm sorry about that, brother. I disconnected you. You got to love it. It's okay.
All right.
Sorry about that. I had my hand on the wrong mouse, and I thought I was clicking on something on another computer, and I literally hit the mouse, and the mouse was hovering over you, and I disconnected you. I apologize for that. And it was, well, I have 3 mice in front of me.
Right.
Okay. And it's just one of those things, man. And I literally thought I was clicking on another screen. And it was funny. When I clicked on the mouse, nothing happened. I was like, what? And I looked over and you were gone. I was like, too funny. Okay, so back to, listen, about Zahi. And I don't mean to personally bag on the guy. That's not what this show is about. And people are very accustomed to me being one thing on the show, and that is a gentleman. What my point is about Hawass is he has, personally just stood in the way of very important research by a lot of different individuals in the guise of not, that Egyptology and Cairo has got this handled. Just let it go. We know what we're doing over here, and I just think it's wrong. And and it's because of ego. And one of the other things that is stopping research over there, genuine research, is the American dollars that are funding a lot of that. So Zahi, handled things the way that he would just to keep the money flowing from the United States and production companies over there to keep him secure in his position and also to keep the money flowing. And that's the truth. And he blocked a lot of. Look at Gate and Brink's door, okay, and the robots that were used in the shafts in the pyramid. He didn't want anything found. He didn't want anything found. They stonewalled that research for years. Gate and Brink originally found that blocked door, and I'm going to guess here, but it was like 1994. And I remember when that was going down, I thought, finally, something new in the Giza pyramids. They stonewalled that research for a decade and or longer, and it was all Hawass. They didn't want anything found. They don't want any library found underneath the Sphinx. And it just seems with all the oil companies out there that are out there finding oil under the, you know what I mean? It's one of the easiest things to do is to go find out what's underneath the Sphinx. Let's go find out how old the Giza pyramid is. Let's find out how old the Sphinx is. Let's really get into this. No, that'll upset everything that the known, the status quo of Egyptology, and they just don't want that done. Hopefully, go ahead.
Well, HARP actually has the ability of tomography. Now, tomography is the idea that you saw in Jurassic Park where they struck the ground and were able to see the dinosaur under the earth,
right?
Knowing where to dig. HARP is capable of this. Ionospheric heaters are capable of this. And even to the point, they've admitted this now, since they've closed the facility to open science, that they used it to do tomography on the moon. And I personally, when I was covering this story back on the bombing of the moon, was certain that's what was happening. As they struck this rocket into the side of the moon, you needed it to ring like a gong like they did on Jurassic Park, and then they can use the HARP system to tomography, get tomographical studies. It's to see inside of the moon,
Absolutely. And I've seen a lot of stuff that is been shot from the air over Egypt. And that there are entire cities that are there. And for some reason, they just don't want it found. And I will reflect this also back onto Göbekli Tepe. And yes, it's my favorite word. Yes, I just said it again on this show, and I waited 2.5 hours to say Göbekli Tepe. But Göbekli Tepe is the perfect example of the gap that we have between a lost civilization or 12,000 BC and the pyramids. And there's just no way that that man was walking around in loincloths and chicken bones hanging around their neck, and the next day they wake up and they're able to build the pyramids. It doesn't work that way. And we are smart enough now to understand that. And then suddenly Göbekli Tepe pops up, and so obviously man was farming and had intelligence and metallurgy and a lot of things 12,000 years ago when the archaeologists and geologists are going to tell you that all of that stuff was impossible. But now we have it, and we don't know how much of it is truly buried under the ground. And it goes all the way back to the possibilities of Atlantis and also to this discovery that we found off of the coast of Malibu. All of this stuff is related, and it can't be ignored anymore.
No. And the idea of global civilizations, as we look to the Piri-Reis map, we see clearly that they had knowledge of the West Coast. They had knowledge of the Western continents. So, yeah, they were global. They were sophisticated. You want me to believe that Aztec able to build pyramids that are astronomically aligned? I mean, the stories that they try to feed to us, the idea that they would go up into the rockiest regions of Peru and build a temple up there to say that they were doing it for farming in the rocks when there was perfectly cultured land that they could work on. Doesn't explain why they moved up there, why they would put something up there like the structures around there.
Well, it's the Temple of the Sun, the Temple of the Moon, that entire avenue that is there. Yeah, exactly. And there's another. I have a really strong issue, and I'll bounce this off of you really quick. But when you look at the alignment to true north with the Great Pyramid, okay, in Giza, when you look at that, and then you consider when it was built, let's just say it was 3000 BC. Okay, let's give them that. But there are structures all across the United States that were built in the last 200 years that couldn't be aligned to true north, but we tried with all of our technology. So when you go back to the Great Pyramid in Giza and the alignment that is there, and you expect me to think or to swallow and to believe that, and now I'm not taking away anything from the intelligence of the Egyptians. I'm not, or the Greeks. I'm not, or the Romans. I'm not at all. They're very intelligent for what they were given. But the fact that happened back then at 3000 BC, no, it didn't. It's because another civilization built it that had advanced technology. And that's the only answer to it. There's no way that they built something that large over that many acres with that many stones and just happened to get it right. And that's my issue. And I think all of us now are smart enough to accept that fact. And Hawass couldn't stand on, and for anybody else too, that believes in that, more and more evidence is pointing in the other direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Over and over again. Hawass is happy to bring Beyonce to sing Ave Maria into the pyramids, or take Barack in there and show him himself on a cartouche. That
was classic, by the way.
Yeah. He said she's a very stupid person.
Yeah, that was classic. So classic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's becoming more and more clear. And what we're finding, too, is that the remnants of the Nazi Party, which I see as our political structure, honestly, for me, Nazis never ended. They are Schwarzenegger and George Bush. And the Nazi philosophies have carried over into all of this situation. I'm trying to remember why I brought that up.
It was good, though. You had me.
Yes.
You had me at Bush. I was right there. I was right there with you. Well,
wow.
Look, I got to say, it was great having you on the show, and we've got to do this in a couple more months, and we'll get you back on. Oh, hold on. Darn. I want to say a bad word. Why do you think you're not on Coast to Coast? Why do you think they ignore you? I'm going to give you got 3 minutes. And the clock starts now. The clock starts now.
Okay, I've had an epic story of attempting to be on Coast to Coast. I initially began just trying to be a phone-in and trying to just clear out some things. So I tried phoning in on a Sunday night when the lady I was working, and she said, well, maybe somebody will phone in with a UFO story. And I was like, well, I just had a V-shaped craft fly over me, and then I met the high priest of the Church of Satan. I think that should be an interesting enough story for them. So I actually get through 12 years of calling into Coast to Coast. I'd never gotten an answer. And this is the very first time. And so I start telling her, well, I was just on my way to this conference, and a giant V-shaped craft flew over our car in Ogden, Utah. And then I met the high priest of the Church of Satan. Would you like to discuss that at all? And she's like, I don't know. What else you got? And I was like, oh, God, really? Well, I went and performed the first ever all-night ritual at the Mayans at the pyramids for the winter solstice, and that was a pretty big deal. It was amazing. George Bush was there the week before, or the year before, and they told me all the stories about it. You want to hear about it? I don't know. What else you got?
What?
Well, I'm like, well, I once lived with a woman who believed she was the bride of Christ and carried around the Holy Grail. She thought I was Enoch. And I think at this point I was maybe getting a little too crazy. And then I'm like, well, my father worked for Project Blue Book, chased flying saucers, and was on the first killer submarine with Jimmy Carter. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to pass. So boom, I'm not on. So later on, I hear Michael Tsarian on with, I think it was George, and they're talking about occult meanings and corporate logos, and George is railing them. And Michael, honestly, I'm sorry, doesn't know as much as I do about the inner workings of the Masonic Lodge and how they relate to these corporate logos. He tries to bring it all astrological, and he was getting bombarded. He was getting rolled over. He couldn't answer questions. And I'm like, I want to help this guy. So I phone in, get in, first try. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm on, so all of a sudden the phone just goes and starts making this horrible hum, and they're like, call right back, and I never got through again. So then eventually I meet George. I'm at a conference with him, and I gave him, this was when Anna Nicole's death was in the courtroom, and it was the biggest story of the century at the time. And it was a huge deal, and I had very deep inside knowledge on all of this. I was really blowing the lid off this story. This is the one story that frightened me to death, all right? My Anna Nicole story frightens me to death. So you should go check it out, because I hate that I put it out there, because it frightens me that I did. But I was going to go on Coast to Coast and tell my side of this thing so the world could see and understand trauma-based mind controls, understand the situation and what was going on, and realize who Danny Lynn really was, this daughter that they were fighting over. And it was all in the courts. It was all over the news. I thought it would be the biggest thing they would love to cover. I handed George my copy of Anna Nicole, Brittany, and Mind Control. We shook hands. Yeah, we'll do a show. Nothing. I wrote it. Nothing. And then later we met for Obama cloning and the coming space war. And I met him and his time, handed them both DVDs, and was like, okay, shook hands. Yeah, we're going to discuss this. It was in the news. Everything was big time. I knew Obama was about to come forward on human cloning, so I already was prepared for this to be a big thing. But, of course, no one even noticed that Obama came out on human cloning. Do you know he released the restrictions to federal funding to human cloning?
Yep.
All right?
Yep.
That occurred, all right? And I was ready for it, and no call, nothing, over and over again. So that was really my epic adventure of attempts. I have pictures of me and George shaking hands, all right?
Well, you know what? It's their loss. It's our gain, and you and I have been talking for a long time now, and I was so excited about tonight, and you've been busy for so long now, but and we have so many things that we still need to cover. And by the way, I'm going to say this right now out loud. I'm going to calm Twitter down. Freeman and I have already talked about MH370, and he doesn't have an opinion on it. Freeman, say it out loud. We're not going to talk about MH370.
It's true. I just, I felt like it was well covered, that they did a good job bringing out the Freescale guys and saying, look, these guys had cloaking technology. No wonder their jet vanished. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Rothschild is involved. There's your answer. But this tweet has been coming in all night, and I know they feel ignored, but we had other stuff to talk about.
It's I've been really tied up. I've been taking care of my mom, and I hadn't really had a time to do any homework on that. We just released Weird Stuff Part 2.
Oh, yeah. I'll do the plug for you. Weird Stuff Part 1. First off, you've got to go check that out. Go to freemantv.com. It's a great website. But Weird Stuff Part 2, which I have been waiting for It's now out. Now, we have 45 seconds. It's now out, right, Freeman?
Absolutely. It's exceptional. If you want a tool to share with your friends, to show them what's going on in social engineering, none of the madness that I've been talking about here, well, some of it, pedophilia, all of the, you got to see it. It's designed as a tool for you to share with your friends. It looks innocuous. We called it weird stuff just to put them off, but as soon as they start opening it, they're going to learn. They're going to see how they are being manipulated. So that's what it is. It's a tool for you to share this information and learn so much from. A lot of hard work went into it. It's awesome. You're going to love it, I swear.
I got to say, thank you for coming on, and I've got to roll, man. I got to read credits and get out of here. Freeman,
thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you, man. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll give you a call first thing in the morning.
All right.
All the best, Freeman.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you, brother.
You too.
All right, man. That is what this show is all about. Technical issues and great minds. I got to tell you, Freeman is the man. And with that, we're rolling. We are out of here. And let me click. We're good. Stay tuned. Coming up next is Night Watch with your host, Todd Sheets, 3 or 4 co-hosts, and a couple of guests. I'd like to thank Larry Haber for coming on tonight in the John Titor updates. Special thanks to Freeman. Special thanks to Keith Rowland and Art Bell. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Palm and Mark D. Kovar. The announcers are Steve Harder and Mark D. Kovar. Music is by Doug Aldrich. Show intros produced by Spaceboy. We do not edit or censor Twitter in any way. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll see you tomorrow night with Larry Warren and Peter Robbins. See you tomorrow night. Be safe, everybody.